Tapas is a foundational concept in yogic and Vedic philosophy, and it's often translated to as discipline or austerity, but there's a much deeper meaning, and at its root, tapas literally means heat or to burn. It refers to the inner fire generated through our conscious effort and focused practice that purifies the mind, body, and consciousness. Welcome back, I'm Leslie Demai, and this is Ethereal Aeons. So if you're new to this channel, welcome. And if you're returning, thanks for being here. You're probably well aware that we've been talking about this fire energy for at least the last month. It's just so relevant and it's just so undeniable and in our face that it's important to really understand this energy. And today we're going to explore that through tapas. And tapas comes from the Vedic and yogic traditions, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which I have covered extensively on this channel from time to time. But I do feel like it always boils down to coming back to these foundations. Check out the links in the descriptions if you want to learn more about the Yoga Sutras. Tapas burns away the inertia, the inaction, the conditioning, and the unconscious patterns. So I first learned about tapas during my yogic training in India, and this was a long time ago now. This was 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. And at this time, I was explained tapas in a very simple way. We use tapas as the inner heat that generated through our asana practice, through our asana discipline. So these are the yogic poses, literally sweating on your mat, waking up at sunrise to do yoga, restraining yourself and not eating until after your 90-minute practice. And so these disciplines are what help to shape you and mold you. So yeah, we apply this during our sessions through yoga, meditation, and breath work. It's very common for tapas to be related to these practices. And it's this idea that through your consistent effort, you generate a kind of internal fire that purifies the body and it sharpens the mind. So yes, this can absolutely burn away karmas. This can burn away unhealthy desires. This can burn away programming. But over the years, I've come to see tapas as something deeper, on a more metaphysical level. And this type of fire exists in everyone, and it's a very basic energetic principle. It's a force that moves consciousness forward as it refines who you are. And the difference is simply the intensity at which this energy is operating within you. For some people, the fire is very low. It's barely active. There's inertia. There's a lot of rest. There's a lot of stagnation, let's say. Life can feel stagnant. Life can feel repetitive. Life can feel heavy. While for others, it's very strong. They're motivated. There's lots of changes. There's growth. There's a desire. There's a lot of action. So the real question is, are you cooking with the heat on high or are you barely simmering? And I cook a lot. So this analogy came to me and I've come to realize that just with cooking in the kitchen, we need the high heat and we need the low heat. We can't just cook with the heat cranked up high. So now the interesting thing about tapas is that it doesn't always mean maximum intensity is the best. It's not the only goal we have. So maximum intensity heat would mean effort, discipline, and real friction going against those desires, going against the impulse to hit the snooze button instead of getting up and doing your practice. That's this type of friction we're dealing with the ego and the conscious self going back and forth until finally you break past that. And so that's what pushes you forward. But other aspects require a much more slow and steady warmth. I came across a really cool example I'd never seen, and it was basically talking about the root of the word tapas. It was connected to this kind of heat that was required for birth. And the Vedic scholars use this example of how a mother bird is sitting on her eggs and creating a warmth. It's this quiet, patient warmth that allows this new life to develop and eventually hatch. And it was her simply just sitting there. So we're always generating this kind of heat within us, this tapas, but it's not always directed. And the mother sitting on her eggs, whether it's a baby bird or a chicken sitting on her eggs, she's very intentional in what she's doing. So I like this concept because eggs have a long symbolism of life, of creation, of spiritual rebirth. And the idea that something new is coming forward beneath the surface before it becomes visible. So tapas isn't always this explosive transformation. Sometimes it's that steady, attentive heat that allows for something deeper to come forward, to come to life. And that can be knowledge, that can be clarity, that can be a kind of spiritual rebirth. And it's important to understand that when we do go through these spiritual rebirths, life changes around you, not just within you. So, very prevalent to what's happening within the reality, very prevalent to what we've been noticing probably within our own lives, and just the conversations I'm having with people and the outreach that's coming towards me has a lot to do with these types of changes and myself personally in my own life. So, I'm totally here for it. I'm totally here to bring this up on a deeper level than just, wow, things are changing, or, you know, we're going through the deluge, right? And so there's a deeper concept behind us that's already been provided to us through these ancient Eastern philosophy, Vedic, Hindu teachings and philosophies. So definitely want to give credit where credit is due when it comes to tapas. And if you're interested in learning more about these philosophies, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, they're all aimed, including tapas, they're all aimed for the practitioner to reach enlightenment. This is the end all be all of these efforts and restraints that we put in with tapas. So what does tapas actually look like in real life, though, for a modern person? In real life, tapas manifests as maintaining a daily spiritual practice. That means meditation, that means movement, that means mantra, that means discipline. What does that look like for you? How does this play out for yourself? What have been your moments of insight when you know exactly the path you need to be taking to dissolve the illusions? And the second one is choosing growth over comfort. So you're pushing yourself. A very difficult one to do indeed. And I named the most basic of the basic one, which is not hitting the snooze button. But what else does that mean? Does that mean having those difficult conversations? Does that mean confronting yourself, looking in the mirror, accepting things instead of denying things? You know, we can really have so many different types of examples, but in all actuality, this is for you to reflect on. The next one is holding steady during transformation instead of retreating. And finally, allowing inner friction to refine you rather than avoiding it. And this has a lot to do with toxic positivity, confronting these aspects within us that we know are based off of fears, limitations, limited mindsets, which really are just the veils over humanity's consciousness. All of those are used to suppress this tapas energy from burning them away. There's like this default mechanism within all of us, and we want to be safe. We want to be in the familiar. And so how are you avoiding getting past that in life? So because tapas literally means heat, it's deeply connected to this fire principle. And as we've mentioned in other videos, the fire in yogic philosophy, Agni, is this transformation, this digestion that purifies, that turns potential into action. So tapas is really just the inner form of Agni, the fire that transforms whatever it touches. And when that fire is conscious, it stops feeling like chaos. It stops feeling scary. It stops feeling unfamiliar, and it starts to become the evolution that's shaping you. So tapas is essentially the conscious cultivation of inner fire. This is why tapas appears during periods of rapid transformation, when life circumstances themselves begin generating the heat that pushes you to evolve. Okay, so something very interesting to add to this. So the tapas versus modern manifestation. So manifestation culture these days in the West is all about focus on attraction, visualization, feeling. People are starting to talk more about that feeling, believing it in the current moment, and receiving it. But tapas focuses on that refinement, on that purification, and that inner strengthening so that your consciousness can hold a higher level of clarity and alignment. So, in other words, this intensity, this fire that you're building within is literally refining your vessel to receive that outcome, the outcome that we all search for, which is that the outcome that we all call out for is that outcome to embody or to just be that version of yourself. So, in other words, the tapas is preparing the vessel because it's the inner fires, literally preparing your consciousness, but also the energetic body. So, it's not just about the outcome, it's again about holding that level of consciousness, that clarity for the long run. This transformation doesn't happen because something external changes or we're expecting something externally to change. It happens because a practitioner becomes capable of holding a higher level of awareness. And tapas is what makes that possible. It generates the inner heat to burn through the stagnation, to dissolve the outdated patterns, and to stabilize your willpower. It will sharpen your perception. And over time, with these habits that you create with that discipline, you're able to hold this fire and it becomes self-sustaining. It no longer has to feel like an effort. And tapas is really just that inner fire from Agni, that fire that transforms whatever it touches. And when that fire is conscious, it stops feeling like chaos and it starts to just be the evolution. So the next time you're feeling this pressure begin to grow, the moment these changes come up and it forces you to move through something uncomfortable, remember that in these yogic traditions, that heat is known as tapas. And your conscious is always trying to get you to break past the spell, the illusion of resisting these types of changes that are in favor of your highest potential. And it's one of the oldest paths of transformations that we know. So I hope this video brings a little bit more clarity to you about these energies and whatever you're experiencing right now related to these energies. Please check out the links in my descriptions, hit the bell notification, and leave a comment below. I will see you very soon.